Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Transitioners. It's always a pleasure to come and talk with the group. I try to do it at least once a year. Jennifer is kind enough to invite me out. And typically, it's this time of year because every year, at the beginning of the year, as part of my career opportunities column, which you can kind of see the link for, they're up and there on the TV, I try to choose a yearly topic, a word, a single word or phrase that is kind of my guideline for the year. In the past, it's been visibility, it's been leadership. This year, it's a year of opportunity. And I actually wrote one of my first columns for the year was entitled just that, a year of opportunity. Mainly that's because in my own life, that's what I was thinking about. I myself am transitioning from a day-to-day computer support role. I was a freelance computer consultant for about 30 years. I was in IT originally and then moved out on my own. But I'm moving away from that. I'm concentrating more on the writing, new media, podcasting, YouTube, stuff like that. And so as part of that change of my own career, opportunity got me thinking. And I sort of thought about it in the past. The important thing about opportunity is, especially if you've been unemployed for a while or you're transitioning, it can seem like there aren't any opportunities. It can seem like the world is just kind of holding you off at arm's length and saying, forget about it. There's nothing here for you anymore. And the truth is, that's a fallacy. There's tons of opportunities that come into our lives every single day, but in the majority of cases, we simply ignore them. We don't pay attention to the opportunities that come in. We don't pay attention to creating our own opportunities, which is possible. We can create our own opportunities and then also see those that come into our lives by virtue of anything else that we're doing in our lives. There are three aspects to opportunity. We have to attract opportunity to us. We have to recognize opportunity when it shows up. And we have to accept opportunity. And I'm going to break the talk down into those three areas today, because those are the three areas I know for myself that I found most important when I started thinking about opportunities. So what's the secret of all this? I've had occasions in my life where simply by doing something that I would have been doing anyway, whether it's taking photographs or speaking at events or organizing my own events like career camp or blogging on my blogs, opportunity came into my life. And that really clued me in that, okay, this is a possibility. People often ask me on my new media side, well, what do you use Twitter for? How useful is Twitter? Twitter just always done. It's like, now I've actually booked calls off of Twitter simply by answering a question that someone had. And that was an immediate kind of smack upside the head that said, okay, this is useful. This can be useful. I need to learn how to use it. I need to learn how to take advantage of it. So, attracting opportunity. Well, first of all, you're sort of doing something right now that attracts opportunity to you, and that's you get out in the world. I know from my own experience it's very difficult sometimes if things aren't going your way, if you're struggling. I had some health issues a year and a half ago myself. You kind of get hermetic. You turn into a little hermit and you go into your cave and you watch your TV and you get on your computer or whatever, and you don't really engage with the world. And that's one of the worst things you can do, because in order to attract opportunity to you, you've got to be out meeting people. Now that meeting people can be face-to-face like this, which I highly encourage, but it can also be online. It can be as part of a volunteer for a group. It can be as part of your work, whatever. The important aspect is simply getting out and being around other people. And as I said, being here at Tuesdays with Transitioners is a big step in that direction. It just gets you out. It's an excuse to get you out once a week, hang out with some people, have some lunch, and just chat about what's going on. Because you never know what sort of opportunities are going to arise from that. When attracting opportunity to you, one of the most important aspects of that is to tell people what you do and how well you do it. To put on my new media hat as well as my career hat at the same time, that's one reason I encourage people to start blogging, to start using Facebook, to start using Twitter and so on, because they are perfect avenues to tell people what you do and how well you do it and actively demonstrate it. I recently went back through my LinkedIn profile, and they've added the feature now to have videos attached to your various positions on your LinkedIn profile. Well, I will put this talk on my LinkedIn profile, and it won't just be a simple text entry on there. I'll be able to link the video right there. So if someone wants to have me in to speak to their group, they don't need to wonder, well, what does he talk about? What's his style? How does he talk? There's a perfect example of what I do. You don't have to guess. It's available to you right there. And I highly encourage you to do the same things. When you do something that you're putting on your LinkedIn profile or elsewhere, take a picture, take a video, record some audio. We all carry, our little new media devices around in our pockets for the most part. And even a standard feature phone like my wife carries, a little flip phone because she doesn't want a smartphone, will still record video. So there's really no excuse these days not to capture what you're doing and then use it in these other places. That is a simple example of telling people what you do and how well you do it. The other thing you can do is what I mentioned earlier is if you're looking through your Twitter feed, you're looking through your Facebook feed, you're looking through your LinkedIn, whatever, and someone has a question that you can answer it. Even if it's just a short little, well, have you tried this, blah, 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 blah. It may turn into a longer conversation, but I've had situations like that turn into work, turn into great relationships, simply because I took the time to take a little piece of the expertise that I have and share it with somebody else. And that's a great thing you can do online. You can do it in person as well, but online makes it so simple because it's just simply of, oh, that's a question, boink, send. It shows up in their Twitter feed, on their Facebook, whatever, and you've helped them out. Anytime you can be of use to someone else, you are attracting opportunity to you because people will see that you help them out. They will suddenly have a relationship with you that goes beyond, Twitter updates that fly by in their feed. They'll get to know you as a person. They'll get to know your expertise. And even more importantly, all those people on the periphery, because of course Twitter and Facebook are public, they'll see that you answered that question as well. And go, oh, she knows about blood. I'll remember that. When I have a question about that, I'll need to talk to her. You're almost like broadcasting, if you want to think about it that way, what you do and how well you do it. So again, I highly encourage you to do that. We don't want to hide away. We don't want to become hermits because it doesn't help us in any way. In fact, it hurts us dramatically when we do that. The fact is, in this day and age, your next opportunity could just as easily come from someone in this group, someone at the coffee shop down the street, someone you meet at some other event, as it could come from someone that you actually know really, really well. That's just the way the world works today. We have the ability to reach out and expand our impact far beyond our own little physical, area and geographic area. And you need to make yourself available because that in turn allows opportunity to show up at your door. You don't spend your entire life out there knocking on doors, begging for a job, begging for an opportunity. It's my goal that in the next decade, that becomes the way we find work. If we stop this whole thing of resumes and out there knocking on doors and emailing all this stuff. We show people what we do, and we turn that whole process over and attract opportunity to us. So that someone says, wow, I need a programmer to do blah, blah, blah. Who do I know? You want to be the first in their mind. I know someone who handles HR. Well, who do I know? You want to be first in their mind. And the way you do that is by sharing what you know. Then all of a sudden you flipped over that whole process again, and the opportunities will start to come to you. They'll pick up the phone and call you instead of you having to go out and search them out. I think that's even more important in today's world because companies, and I think Jennifer will back me up on this, companies are reticent to hire people these days. They don't want to hire people, even though they need them. And it's a really odd situation. It comes from several aspects. One, they don't want to have to lay someone off they just hired, which I understand. That's the good side of the process. Is they really don't want to bring someone on only knowing that they may have to let them go very soon afterwards. So that makes them reticent. The other side is because of our intense focus on the quarterly profit, the bottom line. They will make do. Companies will make do with the staff they have, even if it's hurting them, because the bottom line is all important. It's not the day-to-day operations. It's not what's getting done. They don't see the effect that they're having beyond that quarterly line. And so you have to give them opportunities and reasons to seek you out and to hire you. Because the most important thing is you're going to ease their pain. Anything you can do to ease the pain of your employer, whether it's as a freelancer, a contractor, or an employee, will cement your position. Because that's all we're really looking for. That's all any company is really looking for, is make my life easier. Okay? Don't make it any more difficult. But make it easier on me to do what I need to get done. Because in most cases, everybody out there is struggling. At every layer of the organization, everybody has their issues. We don't think it sometimes if we're working down here in an organization, but even the guys at the top have their issues about job security, if you will. Because frankly, I see just as many VPs and executive VPs get let go as I do regular employees these days. Because oftentimes layoffs do cut through the organization rather than merely lopping off the bottom, because they can't lop off the bottom because someone has to do the work, and so that does happen. So if you're out there and you're sharing what you do and how well you do it, you're attracting an opportunity to you, the next step is to recognize that opportunity. Thomas Edison, there's a great quote from Thomas Edison, and with quotes you have to be a little careful because sometimes they can be apocryphal, but I like to think that Edison probably did say this. He said, "Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work." Too often these days, I run into people who want opportunity but aren't necessarily willing to make the effort to attract it to them. They have fallen into the hermit hole or just the depression hole sometimes. There can be all levels of depression in your life, whether it's clinical or slight or whatever. I suffer from it a little bit myself at times. It's very easy to go down that rabbit hole, as Alice did, and wonder, what's going on. But one of the best things you can do to bring yourself out of that is to actively do something. So we talked about attracting opportunity. You need to be forcing yourself almost sometimes to get out there and meet people and do other things like that. And also to realize that there is no easy solution. I think over the last, I turned 50 on Friday. And over the last 4 decades, I'll say, by age 10, I was kind of cognizant of the real world. Over the last 4 decades, things have changed a lot in that I grew up in a very small town of 2,000 people, a farm town, where work was simply assumed. Everything you got through hard work. That's just the way life was. Over the last 4 decades, we sort of developed what I just thought of when I was writing up my outline for this. I call it the lottery mentality. Rather than doing hard work, many of us start to just think, I'll win the lottery. I'll get that job. That opportunity will show up. This will happen to me, and I'll just sit here and wait until it happens. And the fact is that isn't true. It's never been true. But, over the last several decades, I think that's what we've come to believe, or at least what we want to believe to be true. The fact is, anything you do in your life, from going to school, to getting married and finding a partner, to finding that first job, to planning for your retirement, everything is work. There's a bit of work involved in all aspects of it. And to ignore that fact is to deny yourself an understanding of what really goes on in the world. Yes, we would all love to win the lottery. I would love to win the lottery, thank you, and have at least one area of my life where I had fewer worries. I could set the monetary side aside and say, don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah, still have a bunch of other stuff to worry about, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. I often describe it too in the realm of careers as, if you can sell out. Just make sure you do it big time. Don't sell out for down here. Just, if you're going to sell out, make sure you're getting a big reward for selling out. But the fact is, most of us will not get to that level. Success, though, has levels, and I think we've come to ignore that too, and I think that ties into this lottery mentality. There are many, many, many levels of gray to success. But we've been led to believe over the last several decades that you're either, pick your celebrity, you're either Justin Bieber or you're nobody. And there's no success, there's no levels in between. I work really hard, both with myself and with others, to turn that around and say, no. There are many levels to this. For me, success is if you can support yourself and your family doing something you love, you're successful. The guys coming back from World War II were very, very happy to have a house in the suburbs, a good family, a good job, and a grill out back. They considered themselves successful. They understood that they had survived something very, very, very big in their lives and were very happy with the success they'd achieved. Unfortunately, because of the range of success that's now available to us, the super stardom on one end and being unknown on the other, we can fall in the trap of thinking, no, well, I did that, but that wasn't that successful. It's like, don't fall into that trap. Understand and recognize your successes when you have them, because they are there. If you do that, it makes the rest of your life easier too. Because you're not always trying to be Lady Gaga. You're not and failing. And so you're not always facing that constant failure to achieve success. If you look at your own life and say, no, I have successes. I have success in my own life. And here's where they are. And to be happy with that. I think sometimes we ignore our own successes, and that diminishes who we are, and it diminishes who we are in the eyes of other people too. If we don't accept ourselves as a success, other people are not going to accept us as a success either, because they're fighting with that same idea about success, that you're either someone big or you're nobody. And so help each other out, help everyone around you out by understanding those levels. Thomas Edison also supposedly said, good things come to those who hustle while they wait. And again, it's about work. And that work can be reading your Twitter feeds and responding to questions, answering questions for your family, posting something about your own experiences on a blog, writing for Examiner.com, whatever it takes to, again, tell people what you do and how well you do it. Put out some effort, and that effort will be rewarded. It will start very, very slowly. It'll be very, very small. But you'll start to stack up these little dominoes of success that come out there, and attention and opportunity. And it will start to develop its own momentum. Because that's what you're after. You're after a certain amount of momentum to keep you moving forward, to keep you striving, to keep you working towards some bigger goals in your life. The trouble with opportunity sometimes is that it can seem too big. It can seem too frightening. Yeah, and too different. And so, you mean this is something you're experiencing right now? Right. Sometimes there will be times that people will come to you with an opportunity, and you're like, ah, and you want to just run the other direction because it's an amazing opportunity, but it scares the bejesus out of you because it seems too big for you. Last year we had a project like that. A client that we had done some other work for came to us and said, can you do this project? And it was originally supposed to be 8 video interviews, and it ended up being 30 interviews, and it took us 5 months to complete. So it even turned into something even bigger than what they initially presented us. But it was something that was very fun to work on, very lucrative for us, and very important for that transition in my career. And so every day I had to get up and just, tamp down the fear and just go out and do it step by step and do the work. But that's something that we all need to realize, that there will be opportunities that come to you that are going to scare the daylights out of you. And that's okay. Fear, we're going to talk about in the third section a little bit more, but fear is a good thing in a lot of ways, especially in the modern world, less so in the prehistoric world where fear meant that something was trying to eat you. But these days it's rare that something is stalking you down the street. There's some tiger on the street that's going to pounce on you. So fear actually tells us we're challenging ourselves. We're taking a risk, even if it's a small risk. We're trying something different. We're trying something new. And in today's world, that's a good thing, because it's very, very easy in today's world to simply get locked into our status quo. I'll often talk about inertia. Inertia, is a physics law. It really doesn't apply to human beings and such, except for the standpoint that it just seems a perfect metaphor. And that is, objects in motion tend to stay in motion, Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. If you're at rest, how hard is it to get off the couch? Sometimes, right? That's inertia. But if you can get yourself moving, get that stone rolling downhill, that snowball rolling downhill, all of a sudden it starts to carry on its own momentum, and it keeps you going, and it just grows and grows and grows. And so I know in my own life, and what I tell other people is, you're trying to get that rock moving. If you can get it moving, it'll pretty much take care of itself, because it is its own self-momentum once you get it going, and it will continue to grow. So try and find those little areas in your life where you can kind of nudge things along a little bit. Take one action. We were talking about weight loss earlier. I lost a lot of weight for a variety of reasons over the last year and a half, and part of that was I lost a lot of weight in the hospital over the week I was in the hospital having my gallbladder out. And when I got done, I said, gosh, I've needed to lose this weight for so long. I can't squander this 25 pounds. When do you ever get 25 pounds? Head start. Typically you're fighting for that first pound just so I've got this big rock rolling downhill. I can't. And that's exactly what happened. It gave me that momentum to carry me further. In fact, at the current time, I've lost 60 pounds. And it's work. You got to think about it. Can't just mindlessly, My joke is I have no self-control, so I have to. If I get around food, I've got to I've got to think about it. But certainly, if you're given a bit of momentum like that, jump on it, ride it, take it as far as it'll take you, because it is a great advantage to you when you do that. The third aspect of opportunity is accepting it. Too many people, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the talk, simply turn away from opportunity. Opportunity walks up, knocks on the door, and we don't answer it. And that can be for a variety of reasons. Along with fear, which we'll talk a little bit more about, one of the big reasons we reject opportunity is we don't feel worthy of it. We've gotten ourselves into a state of mind where we don't think we deserve good things sometimes. And that's a really bad position to find yourself in. And again, a lot of the stuff I talk about, a lot of stuff I write about comes from my own experience. And I know I've been there, where you've had some struggles, you've had some setbacks, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm not good enough for this. I can't do this. I couldn't take that job. Stop. The subtitle for my Career Opportunities blog and podcast is Helping to Build the Career You Deserve. Everybody deserves a good career. Okay? There are levels to that goodness, but everyone deserves a good career. Doesn't mean you're entitled to it. That's a different word. Entitlement means you expect it without doing anything for it. What I mean by deserve is, as human beings, we all deserve the opportunity to build the career that makes us successful in our own minds. Please keep that thought in the back of your mind at all times, especially when other people are trying to tear you down, which unfortunately that's just some of the places we find ourselves sometimes. Perhaps we want to do something that other people don't see as important in the world. You want to be an artist, you want to be a musician, you want to be something that's considered, outside the norm. Well, you're going to have to deal with people who don't think that's a valid career choice. So what? You still deserve the career you want. If you're willing to work for that career, you deserve it. Okay? You're not entitled to it. You're not entitled to simply wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be a famous musician, and bang, you're a famous musician. But if you're working towards that, you simply do deserve the success that you gain from that. The biggest reason, though, as we mentioned earlier, for rejecting opportunity and not accepting opportunity is fear. Fear triggers the fight or flight response. And this is something that lives down in the middle of, there's a little tiny thing in the middle of our brain called the amygdala, which is basically, it's sometimes called the lizard brain. And that is a vestige of our primordial beginnings. That is the instinctual part of our brain that keeps us breathing, keeps us doing lots of other things, but also triggers that fight or flight response. When we get scared, there are two things we immediately think of. I'm either going to fight that thing or I'm going to run as fast as I can the other direction. And again, as I mentioned before, when there were tigers, saber-toothed cats chasing you down the canyons of Southern California, that was a good thing. It was really good to have those things that immediately triggered and said, I'm either going to fight the thing or I'm going to run, because otherwise you ended up being dinner. As I'm sure you know nowadays, that's simply not the case any longer. Our basic safety and needs are taken care of for the most part. We're not going to be eaten by a saber-toothed cat. If nothing else, they don't exist any longer, but we're not going to be eaten by something. But that little part of our brain still triggers when we're faced with a scary situation, like an opportunity that seems too big. And oftentimes what I see people do is they just run. They run, they make every excuse on the planet why they can't take it. I can't move, I can't do this, I can't close up shop here, I was very heartened to listen to you earlier by saying, well, my stuff's in Colorado. Oh, yeah, I have my bag, I got what I need, I can go. That is a really healthy attitude. Now, it probably took you a while to come to that decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's the situation. It's like, just take what you can take with you and just go.
Right. You know? That's where you want to be. You want to be accepting. Now, there's an important difference too. Sometimes we get fearful sometimes because we think, just by thinking about an opportunity, I've committed myself to it. It's like, no. You're just thinking about it. But we have a hard time differentiating between those things. We think that simply by thinking about an opportunity, we're suddenly committing the opportunity and everything that goes with it. We start the future trip and say, well, if that happens, and that happens, and that happens, and that happens, and that happens, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. It's okay to think about it. In fact, it's important that you think about it, because that will cause you to accept more opportunities than you reject. Okay? And to accept those opportunities that mean the most to you. So, please do not think simply by thinking about an opportunity. You are committing to it. That comes further. That takes a little more getting to. A lot more thinking needs to be done before you commit to something. But don't just run away. Because that's something I see so often in people, is they just run away. And again, myself included. Okay, there have been opportunities I have run away from because they simply were too big, too different, too scary. And it's through those experiences that I've come around to this other way of thinking, and knowing myself, I know that I have to go, take a deep breath, stop for a moment, plant my feet, don't run screaming into the distance, and just think about it for a little while. And I see it in other people, so that helps too. I begin to recognize that it's occurring when it's occurring.
I have a question.
Sure.
What if you have this, like things happen to me where it's like so sudden and spur of the moment, it catches me off guard. And I always freeze up, my mind goes blank. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been able to get past that. I mean, only in one way I have. In one instance, I was able to say hi, but nothing else. And I keep, afterwards, I'm always like, I should have said this, I should have done that, I should have started the conversation, and blah, 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 and it would have maybe got me opportunities. But I always freeze up, go blank, and...
Well, you're sort of doing what you need to do. Yes, it happens afterwards, but what you need to remember now is what do you say to yourself afterwards?
I should have done this, I should have said that.
And when you're going into a situation where opportunity might occur.
But see, that's the thing. It's not like I was expecting it. I wasn't at a place where I was on an interview or something, and it was just like I was doing something else, and all of a sudden this person pops up that could have been, an opportunity, and I'm like, why are you looking at me? Why are you talking to me? It's like I feel like you think you know me, but you don't know me, and I don't know you, so bye.
Yep. Well, that's what I was explaining earlier. The fact is, every situation, every place we go, every meeting we attend, every coffee shop we could be an opportunity. Yeah. So we have to start preparing ourselves ahead of time. We have to start going into the situations with something may happen here, and I'm okay with that because I've thought about it. Someone starts talking to me about something, I'll talk back to them. Don't allow it to take you off guard. And I think that's partially because we like to think, opportunities come from a sit-down interview at a company, or they come from here, or they come from there. And it's like, no, they're all out there, all over the place. And yes, you have to condition yourself. Now, as I said, you're doing the right thing, though. You're at least, after the fact, thinking about what you should have said. Now all you have to do is remember that and bring it forward. And bring it forward so that it's here in your mind when you're in a situation like that and not back here. Because what's happening is you're getting during the headlights look. You've already thought about it. You know what you want to say. You know what you need to say. You just got to bring those thoughts more to the forefront of your thinking and realize that any place you might be, there could be an opportunity there for you. And that's a very common experience. Yeah, I sometimes, it's very odd for me because I tend to have conversations with a lot of people, strangers and not, and one of the things my wife and I always talk about is that art of conversation. Because they never start off with, hey, but could you do blah, blah, blah. It's always this roundabout, you have, oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, yeah, nice coffee. Hi, the weather's nice today. And then it sort of morphs into something. What you need to realize is that follow that conversation. Where is that conversation heading? Where is it going? Because the fact is, it really isn't a surprise. What it probably means is you've missed the lead up to it. You've been having this conversation. They've been having this conversation. And all of a sudden they drag you up to them. And it's like, no, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And so there is an important part of conversation, which is understanding how a conversation ebbs and flows. My wife and I always tell the story because we both went to college for what essentially were communications degrees. My degree is actually in theater. Hers is in education. And we were both required to take a class called IPCO 305, Interpersonal Communications. It's a whole class about talking to each other. Okay? And we thought this was the most absurd class to have to take as a requirement for our degrees. What do you mean I have to take a class about how to talk with other people? Until we got to be adults and realized how few people can actually carry it out. And what that class gave us was the underpinnings of the scientific aspects of how conversations happen, how they ebb and flow, how they grow, how they morph, how they change. And that has really helped us in our lives a lot. If you're looking for something for yourself, for example, look up interpersonal communications online and start to look at some of the stuff there. It will be enlightening, I can almost guarantee you, because just the nature of us as human beings, we don't think about how we communicate with other human beings, we just do it. But then we start to realize, yeah, there are certain dysfunctions. We've had a big increase in the acknowledgement and understanding of Asperger's and autism and other stuff. And nowadays, when I'm out having conversations in the real world, it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing a clinical thing here that I perhaps wouldn't have noticed before, but I'm seeing something that's probably clinical. I need to talk to you in a different way than I talk to that person. And I talk to this person a different way than I talk to Jose, and I talk to this person different than I talk to Jennifer. And you'll start to understand that there are levels of conversation, and that will help you from getting surprised. But first and foremost, though, just be aware. Opportunities can happen anywhere. As I said, just as likely at the local coffee shop as at your school, as at your job, anywhere else. And be aware, be accepting of that, and be welcoming to that. Again, we don't want to run away. We don't want to be scared. We don't want to not accept these opportunities that present themselves, at least to think about them. Again, we're not saying we're going to commit to them, but we at least need to allow ourselves to think about them. Yeah.
I think it's helpful too to have that 30-second elevator speech of, that quick introduction to who you are and what you're doing in the moment, and what your goals might be or what you can offer, and to actually look in the mirror each morning and recite your 30-second little speech. Do it every day, and then when you get surprised by meeting somebody, it'll happen, that 30-second speech. You won't be thinking about it at the time you're trying to listen to the person. Hopefully it would come sort of easily when you find that place in the conversation that it's appropriate.
If you do it enough, it becomes automatic. I am blessed in some regards in that because of who I am, and perhaps I like to say the training I got in college from being a theater person and other stuff, I have the ability to sit down and talk with people. It's something that doesn't frighten me. People to this day still say that the most frightening thing they ever have to face is giving a presentation in front of other people. I don't understand that. That just seems bizarre to me. But that is the case, and that most humans are very, very afraid of that aspect. But if you practice enough, if you think about these things ahead of time, and again, that's why I say, you're thinking about them after, fine, capture those things you're thinking of what I should have said, and work to make them more automatic and more part of your original thinking. One of the great things for me is if it's a topic I know about, I can sit down and give a talk on something extemporaneously, simply because I've immersed myself so deeply in those topics, whether it's careers or gardening or technology, whatever, that I have a wealth of information to call forth, and I have established my thoughts over time. I've talked about these so often that the things that I think are most important are already there in my mind. And if you can do that with your own career, your own elevator speech, your own thought processes, that will help a lot. Does that help? That pretty much wraps up my talk for today. Basically, the three big things again is you want to attract opportunity to you whenever you can. You want to recognize it when it pops up. And you want to accept it when it does show up because you deserve it. It is not something to be frightened of. It's not something to run away from. It is simply a normal part of life. Especially in these last 4 decades, the world has changed so much. Our concepts of life, work, success, family have changed dramatically. We were sitting last night watching an episode of Murder, She Wrote. Oh, wow. 1984. And it's a mystery series. There's a murder that occurs, and there's a plot point that happens where someone had to get to a telephone. And you're like, you couldn't do that story today. And it's just one of those tiny, tiny things that has changed so dramatically since the 1980s. But yet we forget it because we're immersed in it. Sometimes we forget how much the world has changed. And it does mean we need to adapt. We need to reinvestigate our thoughts of how life, work, or career works. It isn't how it used to work. It's quite different now, and we need to adapt to that.